Thank you so much for watching here today. We have Brother Steve, Apostle Steve Hargrave with us. You're from Muncie, Brother Steve?
Yes, sir.
And Brother Randy, the Apostle Brother Randy here from Greenville. And I am Apostle Tinsman, also here from Greenville. Brothers, we'd like to take up a subject of something, of course, that is very, we could say, a hot topic in the news today. And I felt very stirred this morning. I called Brother Steve a few times.
Yes, sir.
Stirred up about some things concerning this. Of course, we know that the death, the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis has stirred the nation. There's a lot of protest that's been going on almost in every major city, not only in this country, but in various countries all over. I know Canada, Germany, they're just various countries all over the world that there was a major protest today in Guadalajara, Mexico, and a lot of things that are happening. And what struck me today more vividly than at other times before is how lost the people are.
Yes, yes.
And I think of a scripture that occurred to me today, and I want to read it in our opening here. And we find it in Proverbs chapter 29 and verse number 18. And it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish."
Yes.
Now we understand, and we've understood this before, but reading it just like this, we might think where you can't see or a vision, but we actually understand that the context of this scripture, and maybe the original language would use the word seer. So where there is no seer or a person with a vision. And I'm reminded today about the different kings that we read about and throughout the scriptures. You have King David, but various places you have the kings, but the kings were held in check by the prophets.
Yes, sir.
And
willingly so.
Well,
at times willingly so. The good ones.
And many times they would even seek out the counsel of the prophets. Do we go to war? Do we not go to war? We know when David sinned, it was Nathan that came to him, rebuked him. Because there's a part of humanity that cannot be governed except by a prophet.
That's right. That's good.
Humans are more than just physical beings, but we're three parts. We have soul, spirit, and body. And to control or to rule a people, you have to deal with all three. You can't just physically hold them. I suppose people put in prison, they're physically held. And I have a lot to say, and I don't want to drag this out, but I have a lot that's been burning on my mind today, and we'll get into this. But I just wanted to lay this out. You can't really rule a people unless you address all three parts of humankind. And the government that we know as of today, basically all over the world, through science, or we would know it as false science, the scripture calls it false science, have really deleted the voice of the prophet. Now it's presidents, or it's king, or it's a premier, or something like that rules the people, but then they're unable to touch the areas that need to be touched. Not that they couldn't deal with the spirit of man, but many times these people are not able because their spirit is not dealt with, so they don't know how to deal with a man. I want to say that I think we're living in a mess.
Brother.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever seen, I don't know that I've ever, well, I definitely can say that I've never witnessed in my lifetime the mess that we're in today. And I think in a sense that things have always been a mess. Government has always been a mess because it's carnal. But to the magnitude that we know it today, I am not sure that there's been a time when it's been really much worse. Mm-hmm. Not just in America.
Yes, worldwide.
But it's worldwide. There's a total loss of faith in governments. There's a rise of anarchy. And yet there's a seeking of old paths, a seeking of let's go back. And in the light of that, at this time, we have President Donald Trump, who is our president, of which many things I appreciate that he does and stands for, anything that's righteous. I appreciate anybody that stands for anything that's righteous. And there's some righteous principles in which he stands for that I appreciate. And yet, Donald Trump, President Trump, I should say, does not know.
That's right.
How to deal with the present situation.
Right.
Correct.
And in my opinion, I respectfully say that he miserably failed.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not saying that as someone who is opposed to him. Again, as I've said before, there's many things about him I do appreciate, but miserably failed in dealing with this present situation concerning the uprising, the emotions, and things that have spurned from the murder of George Floyd. And then I listened last night to a woman that I have had really a lot of respect for, and that is Candace Owens. Mm-hmm. I think in a lot of ways Candace Owens is very intelligent. It seems like to me that Candace Owens in the past has been willing to push against the status quo. But she recently put out a video, and I think it's about 18 minutes long,
Something like that,
of her take on this whole thing with the murder of George Floyd. And I was disappointed, but much stronger than that. I was shocked. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was appalled. And I honestly don't know. I still want to say I have respect for her, well, I do as a person, of course, but I don't even know if she knows what she said. Like, I don't know if I could sit down with her and say, well, you said this, what does this mean?
Okay, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought. So you don't know if she is fully aware of what she said or the implications of it?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know whether she is or isn't. In my opinion, she fully gave every reason to believe that slavery was not only okay, but was necessary and right. Mm-hmm. Now, she didn't say those words by no means. Mm-hmm. Do I believe that she believes in slavery? No, I don't think she does. But if she believes what she says, it would give every excuse and every reason to believe that slavery. And I want to talk about some of those things, and I want to talk about them in detail. I want to do it because I feel like that we are at a time when, as I said before, people are lost. Nobody knows what to do.
That's right.
And they say, well, let's make a change. Let's go to the polls. I'm here to tell you that I don't care who gets elected. It ain't fixed.
That's right. That's correct.
And there's no president that'll fix this. And it's time for the voice of the church, and as we as apostles, to stand up and save a people.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That is doomed if we don't save them.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
They're lost. I want to say they're lost not because they want to be lost, And I'm going to say this too, they're lost not just because they love their sins. I believe that people love their sins, and that makes them have a blinded mind towards righteousness. But they sincerely, we are coming from 400 years of a mess that has reached a full fruition, actually, and they're lost, sincerely not knowing how to find themselves. You could say there's two sides of the issues, and both sides are lost.
Yes, right.
And equally so. Not like one side is more than the other. Both sides are lost. White people are lost. Black people are lost. And that would include everyone else, whether it's Hispanic or Asian. The world is lost, not knowing a direction, not knowing what's right. So lost. I think of the scripture, Jesus said they wandered like sheep without a shepherd. But when they see a shepherd, they're so lost, they don't like the shepherd. The one that could save them, the one that could make sense. I feel like that as we are leaders of the church, our first responsibility is to them. And I think that making this recording is important for them. But we are, but second to that, or equal to that, maybe we should say, yes, equal to that, is those who are lost in the world of sin, and that we have to deal with that. So, brethren, I'm white. You, brethren, are black. And there's a society that we all live in that looks at us differently.
Yes, sir.
We can deny that, but it would be a fool to deny it. Now, I'm going to say some strong things, and then I want you all to help me out here, and you can correct me too. I'm open for that. You know, there's some things that I think are hard to prove. I believe them to be fully right. Like we could talk about white privilege. I believe that fully. When somebody says, well, you tell me what white privilege is. What can a white person do that a black person can't do? And then they always have the exceptions, and they bring in, well, this black person did this, and this black person, we've had a black president, by the way, and you know, and those things, though I firmly believe them, are sometimes hard to prove. But then there's other things that are definitely easy to prove. So I think one of those things is the foundation of this country. Now, definitely the foundations, the laws, the Constitution that of this country was written upon the white privilege. There's no question about that. I mean, that's provable. You could read it. What was a black man? Did they have a 2/3 vote? That's when they were allowed to vote. I mean, that's after there was improvement, right?
Well, no, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Are you talking about the 3/5?
Well, the 3/5. You are correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
okay.
so when counting the people that make up a certain census, a black man, well, at one time wouldn't have been counted at all. And then, you know, after we got much enlightened, the black man was now 3/5.
It was for representation and taxation purpose. That's at least what they say. That's a long story, but there's 3/5 of a person.
It was 3/5 of a person. That's right. So we know that this country is, and actually it goes beyond this country, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll talk about this country. This country, definitely the laws that were written based upon white people. Now, I believe that to this very day, and I could be off on this a little, I wouldn't be off much, but the Senate, the U.S. Senate, has only ever seen 5 black people, ever. And 3 of them are sitting in the Senate now.
As their membership, actually being a part of it.
That's right. That filled the seat of the U.S. Senate. I believe I'm correct about.
I believe.
So they've only ever seen. So there's 100 senators, and I believe they're reelected every. Well, I may be showing my ignorance. I think it's every 6 years, or I'm not certain.
I'm going to lean on you on that.
Okay, but that's a long time, and there's only been, I believe, 5 black men. or black people that have sat on that, and 3 of them are there now. Candace Owens, and talking about George Floyd, and this is what gripped my heart. I didn't know to cry. I didn't know to scream. It's hard to see someone do this who you really held in a pretty high esteem. Her argument of why she said a few things, and the viewer, you can listen to this for yourself. I could err in direct quoting her, but she talked about George Floyd and his past criminal history. He had been in and out of jail a few times. One really bad time is where they broke into a woman's house, a pregnant woman's house. George Floyd was the driver of the car. George Floyd also, according to Candace Owens, I don't know this to be true, it probably is true, but according to Candace Owens, George Floyd was the one that held the gun at the woman's belly while the rest of the people ransacked the house to try to find valuables. The neighbor got the license plate, called the police. George Floyd was caught and with others was put into prison. Her argument is that he is no hero. Now, let me say that we've gone to several rallies. Mm-hmm. We've been to our people anyway have been to Minneapolis. Yes, we've been to Fort Wayne.
We've been to Columbus.
We've been to Columbus, mm-hmm. and various places. I don't know. I'm unaware of anybody trying to say that George Floyd's life was an example for everyone to live. I have not heard that. I don't know if you brethren have heard that, or that he was the hero, or that he was the icon for all black people at all. My understanding is that the outcry, and rightfully so, has been the brutality that he received, coupled together with what's been happening all along. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
It just happens to be that George Floyd, the incident that happened to him was caught on camera. Probably, if it wasn't caught on camera, those 4 officers would still be officers. They would be free. They would still continue doing the same things they have done, and this would have not been dealt with. Yes, they're arrested. They should be arrested. I don't know any human being that wouldn't think they shouldn't have been arrested. But we also, to be really honest, they're arrested because they got caught on camera.
That's right.
Okay. Candace Owens says that black people make up 13% of the population of the United States. And I'm assuming that her demographics are accurate. And she says black men make up 6% of the U.S. population. She says, but none of that matters. We have to look at who make up the majority of the criminal activities. And according to Candace Owens, that she says that the black men make up half the crime in the United States of America. So she says 6% of the people account for 50% of the crime. Therefore, from everything that I could gather, what she was saying is that the reason that she was not going to support George Floyd is that first, that he was a past criminal, and then she went on to say that the black community tries to elevate the lowest denominator, I believe is her term, saying that they tried to take a criminal and turn him into a hero overnight. Now, let me say, that may all be true. And that black men make up half of the crimes in the United States. That, I don't know. I would assume she got her facts right, and that's probably not off. I'm not here to argue that. My argument is what does that have to do with the wrongful death of George Floyd? If he's been a past criminal, in fact, if he was being a criminal at the time. Now, by the way, the call was because he had a $20 bill that was possibly a counterfeit. I hadn't heard whether it actually was or was it, even if it was. Okay. Past criminals, he served his time. The police are not judges. The police are not juries. They killed this man while he was begging for air to breathe. Why in the world are we talking about his past criminal life? What does that have to do with it? Why does Candace Owens not support George Floyd in the protest that's happening because he wasn't the role model of a black man? So is only injustice that's done to a person that's a role model gets our attention? Now, here's the thing. I don't want to confuse this. We talk about facts. And everybody says, well, I want the facts. I want the facts. Sure. And there's a reason I'm saying this, because it really takes a prophet. It takes an apostle to help the nation to sort through facts. That's right. You can get lost in facts.
That's right.
It don't all have to be. You can get lost in them.
That's right.
I think about, this is a little crude example, but I think about the little mathematical quiz that people do. And it's a common one. I don't know if you, brother, have heard about it, but it's a common one. They call it the lost dollar. And they always say, there was 3 men that went to a motel, and the motel cost $30, and each man paid $10. And then the hotel realizes that I know this sounds a little crazy, but you follow me and you'll know why I'm saying this. And the hotel realizes they overcharged him by $5. So he gives the $5 back to the bellboy, and he says, you go take it to these men. Well, the bellboy, has what he considers a bright idea. He takes 2 of the $5 and sticks it in his pocket, and he gives the man back $3, and he feels he gave him back. And then here's the quiz. They say, well, each man gave $9, which is $27. That's a fact. They actually gave $9 apiece. That's a fact. And the boy has $2 in his pocket. That's a fact. I mean, according to the riddle, it's a fact. They say, well, 27 plus 2 is 29. What happened to the lost dollar? And that's been a quiz that's been out even when I was a little child, and nobody could figure out what happened to the lost dollar. Well, it's all factual, but the problem is they got the facts mixed up. You don't add the 2 to the 27. You take the 2 away from the 27 to get the 25 that the motel got. Or you can take the 25 the motel got, then add the 2 that makes the 27 that the men paid. Well, all I'm saying is that it's all factual, but you get your facts mixed up, and people get lost in a hurry. So, we're living in a country where there is a country that's been based upon white privilege. Now, that to me is not deniable. I can't imagine any person that's knowledgeable about the history of this country could not say that. Even if they don't believe that it exists now, they can't deny that it existed then. I mean, we have a country that instituted and ran slavery, right? I mean, there's no way you can deny that.
Is that, do we know, does Candace Owens deny that happened at one time? I don't know, I'm asking.
Oh, I don't know that she does. I'd hope that she does it.
Okay, so the premise is basically that no longer is the case.
I think she doesn't believe. In fact, she said the situation that happened with George Floyd, her words were this, to the best of my knowledge, I'm verbatim. She said, rarely ever happens.
The death of a black man by police rarely happens.
Rarely. Her words was rarely ever happens. Which we know that's not true. Why can we go through and start naming off all these black men that have been killed? Okay. But if we go back and say, look, we have a country that's built upon this. Now we've come from there, and not everything's the same, and well, not exactly the same anyway. Sometimes they are the same. They just look a little different, you know.
Yes, sir.
All right. So then we have a kind of that's built upon the premises of white privilege. And then we have, however many, couple hundred years later, well, if we talk about from the Lincoln days, it's what, we're 100 and
So
170 years later, we still have incidences like George Floyd that happened a week ago. Totally unarmed, totally cooperative. He's killed by police, and it just happened to get caught on camera. You have, I'm ashamed to say this, I was downtown today, a couple hours ago, and there's a protest going downtown by Black Lives Matter. There was a woman walking down holding a sign, said, "I love my white privilege." She said that. I mean, her sign said that today in Greenville, right here in the rally. The protest. So here's what we have. We have a country that's confused. If there is a rally, if the black community gets together and they come together, they're confused of why they have come together.
Yes, sir.
And whatever attempt they would do to make right the wrongs that have been done, or to make whatever demands they feel like need to be made, they can't do it, not because they don't have the ability, but because they can't come together. And the reason they can't come together is because they're lost.
Yes, sir. Right. And the reason they're lost is?
The reason they're lost is because we live in a society that keeps them lost.
That's right.
They take facts. Sometimes lies. Lies are horrible, but we can just talk about facts. They take facts and they start misplacing them. I think about the scripture that says about those who would come to the shore and sat down. That's talking about the church. It said they would pull in the net of every kind. And then they would come to shore and sit down, and they would start to separate and put the good into vessels and cast the bad away. Actually, we have a people that have not allowed anyone to sit down and to make those judgment calls, and they're looking to Washington, D.C., or state senators or state governors or whatever it might be to try to say what is right and what is wrong, and everybody is confused.
Yes, sir.
Everybody is confused. So you got one group saying this, you got one group saying this, and it's not black and white. You got multiple groups within the white, you got multiple groups within the black, and they're all fighting one another. And just like the protest in town today, we've got, Black Lives Matter, and then you've got another protest protesting that protest, and then you have a third one down there doing something else. It's a mess. And they're not really to blame. Because we live in a society that keeps it that way.
That's right.
And I hate to say what I'm about to say. There's no hope outside of a seer.
Yes, that's correct.
They are perishing by the multitudes. And I'm going to say it doesn't matter who gets elected this year as president of this country. They're lost.
That's right.
They're lost until they recognize, I need a seer. And they almost can't recognize it because they're in a system that doesn't allow them to recognize it. It tells them to think for themselves, to stand up for yourself, which the words alone you almost could appreciate. But what it produces is total chaos that we have today. So I've always believed in this. This isn't just necessarily a new thought to me at all, but I would say that it's more impressed upon my mind today than it's ever been before. I don't care whether George Floyd was the devil himself. What happened to him was wrong, clearly wrong. You know, they did the same thing to Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King. They tried to discredit his person. And there may be things that he did that isn't good. But the people that tried to discredit him wasn't righteous and pious
That's
people.
right.
Mm-hmm. They too were wicked, and they only wanted to take facts to confuse the message that actually God was giving through him at that time.
So could we say, brother, that just because one is in possession of facts doesn't mean that they're in possession of the truth?
Do we not see that as scribes, even in the scriptures? Jesus said, woe unto you scribes. They would have had the writings. They would have known the facts. So my answer is yes.
So even though someone would have facts actually need interpretation.
Oh, brother.
And what you're saying is the interpreters of those facts are the seers or the prophets.
That's right. That's right. I would like to say to our viewers, if they're listening, that the system of this country, or I would say the system of this world, is not repairable.
Amen.
Amen.
So while you fix it, go to the polls, get registered to vote. It's hopeless. I know that's not what people want to hear.
You're talking about the system.
I'm talking about the system is hopeless.
The system
totally is hopeless.
Right.
They have to come out of that system and find the seers, of which I'll be so bold to say that's us.
Yes.
That's all right.
That's all.
That's us.
It's
this ministry.
It's got to be whoever the seers are would know that they're the seers.
Would know that they're the seers.
Yes.
And as long as they're trying to find answers inside of this system, they'll never find them.
Now, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep, brother. Wouldn't that be where Candace Owens would fail? Because she's unwilling, this is me, this is my opinion, she's unwilling to step outside of the system, so she has to attempt to remain true to this idea of whatever conservatism is, whatever being a Republican is. So I have to remain true to this idea that there is no such thing as white privilege, that there is no systematic racism, and in order to remain true to this narrative and fit into my box, which she says she came out of, fit into my box of conservatism, I must formulate the thoughts as I have formulated them, which actually destroys what other people, it was actually destroyed our confidence center in that regard, what other people are needing. So in order to remain in the system, or in order to remain true to the belief of the system, you actually have to deny humanity. George Floyd, he's just a person.
Just a person.
His family is grieving unimaginably, and they have to listen to who was a black leader, Candace Owens, beautiful, intelligent. So now I have to listen to you run down my brother's resume about all of his indiscretions, and may be true. All of his bad decisions may be absolutely true, but having nothing to do with the circumstance,
Nothing.
and really a violation of humanity, because it's not really time to talk about that.
No.
He was actually assassinated.
That's right.
And you're violating just the essence of being human.
That's right.
And compassionate. But I have to violate that in order to fit into my box, which is a part of the system that she would deny even exists.
And that's where she fails, and fails miserably.
Yes,
That's where Donald Trump, the president, fails, and fails miserably.
Yes, sir.
Is because they think the solution is within the box or within the system. And the scripture says Babylon cannot be healed.
That's right, sir.
And it just cannot be. Brethren, I felt like weeping today as I thought about souls that are lost. Lost in sin. That's the root, yes. But they're lost in every human sense imaginable.
Yes.
I don't even think they know what to tell their babies, their children, their youth. Who do they tell them to follow? Who do they tell them to look to? And actually, God has been faithful to allow the system of government of this country, and not just this country, but to run its course to prove that man cannot fully help man outside of God's plan. God uses man, but you have to. God uses man within His system.
Yes.
We have another system that rose up against God that actually has had the appearance of being successful, but God has allowed it to go, and now it has utterly showed that it's totally a failure, cannot meet the needs of the people. We have a nation and a world that's in chaos, and there's one solution. And it's not to tell people to go pray, and I'm for prayer, and they need to pray, but they need direction from a seer who is in connection with God.
Yes.
And that's not Donald Trump or Candace Owens.
That's right.
Amen.
Or Black Lives Matter.
Amen.
Though they have good principles, and they have some good principles and some good things, but they don't have the answers.
That's right.
It takes a prophet, it takes an apostle to set this thing straight. I think we have a lot of people who don't think very deep. They think emotionally. They can listen to something, by Candace Owens. She's very well spoken. She's also black. And she says what she says, and it's like, oh. But you don't have to think very hard to realize. So black men are just prone to criminal activity because they're black? Or there might be another reason? If she would have said why, I'd have shouted for joy. Why is this? I'd have said, yeah, there you go, now we're talking. But she boils it down to the best that I could read it and understand it and hear it, that because they're black, had nothing to do with the years of slavery and the beating down of men and the separating families and separating fathers from children, and somehow don't have anything to do with that. It's the mere fact they're black, they're prone. If that's true, then she's prone to criminal behavior because she's black. If that's true, it's not true. I'm telling you, it's not true. But if what she says is true, then she's prone to criminal behavior. And if that's true, then all these black people better be put in slavery again, because that's the only way we can control them.
So I just,
that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know what Candace Owens would make. I don't know what she would say in rebuttal to what I just said, but I believe that's what she said.
So is that part of what you would believe? She's not aware fully
That is
the ramifications of what you said, or what exactly what you said.
That is what I meant when I said I don't know that she's fully aware of what she is saying or what I'm receiving that she's saying.
Now, I think I understand, and obviously I can't speak for her, but I think I understand her, Larry Elder, people like them. They would say that it's really a lack of family values. It would be a lack of fathers in the home that produces these results. I think that's what she would say. Obviously, I can't speak for her. So I don't think she would say it's because they're black. Although I do think her words it clearly implies that.
It sounds like that.
There's no question her words imply. But I think they would say, what I'm trying to get at, I think they would say, no, it's a lack of fathers in the home. It's a lack of discipline. It's the victim mentality. I think they would put all that together and say that's the reason. But I think it goes right back to the same thing. Why is there a lack of fathers in the home? How did that happen? Because the whole point is a denial of systematic racism.
That's right.
And so it's not systematic racism, it's because fathers are not in the home.
Right.
And so the question would be, why then are fathers not in the home? And our answer is because there's a system in place that keeps them away from, they're jailed at a disproportional rate. And so that'd be our answer. Their answer, as best as I can tell, would be, no, it's just because of a lack of discipline. It's a victim mentality. It's their own personal choice. Look at me, look at others. You can make it if you want to make it.
Right.
But really, doesn't it just go right back to the same thing? So if it is a lack of fathers, no, I'm not saying that slavery is good. I'm saying it was terrible. But that has nothing to do with this. There's a lack of fathers. Well, how did fathers? No, they need family values. Well, where were the family values? How did they get destroyed? Because lack of fathers. Well, how did that happen?
Because I mean,
At the rate,
black community.
It's at the rate at which it happens. It's not. It's not that some people don't fall off. It's not that. It's not that there's not trouble in a home.
Right.
There are troubles in homes everywhere. Whether it's a white family, black family, Asian family, there are troubles in. We're talking about something, a factory of trouble.
It produces trouble.
You're talking about something that produces trouble. We don't have the numbers, and I wish I had some of the numbers, but I know that years ago, the Black Family Unit was one of the strongest units
in America. Absolutely.
Even during the days of slavery.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And after the slaves were so-called free, didn't they go, like they went back, I'm going to go find my cousin. I need to go find my wife. Let's go look for daddy. Like family was so very important in the black community. I'll say this too. I want you to keep talking to. It seems to me that it's an insult to our intelligence to suggest that the massive incarceration rates just happen without there being an intention that they happen.
Of course.
Now, they just happen through this osmosis somehow.
Can I interject and say that for someone to say, well, it just happens, would be like saying the situation in Minneapolis just happens.
That's right.
Yes. Well, it doesn't just happen. They're lack of fathers. And that just happens.
No.
It's actually insulting to somebody's intelligence.
Right.
You mean to tell me that there's disproportional rates of fathers in the home, disproportional prison sentences, and this is just happening without a system producing these results? Actually, the system has not failed at all.
That's right.
No,
the system has not failed.
No, it's
the system is successful in producing the results that she says.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That she's giving facts about.
That's right.
It's totally successful. She's just denying that there's a system that creates such success in producing these results.
I just don't know what Candace Owens would say what produces them. She'll say, well, it's because of this, but then why is that?
The question is why. So, brother, I have to ask you a question, but what do we say, because back to white privilege, I'm sorry. So I think Candace Owens would deny white privilege. I'm saying I think because I don't know. But my assumption is she would think that that's a social construct.
I think she almost, I would think that she clearly says that she denies it in this.
Okay, very good. So she denies that there's such a thing as white privilege. You just have to work. You have to do the best you can, and others have worked hard. What do we say, not just to Candace Owens, but what do we say to the white people, quote unquote white people, that grew up poor? And they really have worked hard. Like they really have. They're not making this up. And they look out. And I even understand, I'm not white, but I know how that can be like white privilege. What? I was, we were poor. I worked for everything I have. I worked my way to make six figures. I stayed up nights. I made my business work. How can we tell someone like that this is not a social construct, that you actually have white privilege? How do we make that work?
So brother, that's a very good question or a very good thought, and something that we need to address. I think it may be a little more complex than just some simple answer, or at least it is for me. So I think that, the same system that puts the black man or the black person at the low end of the social status does the same thing even in the white community. And puts certain people in certain places and on social status. I think that is a part or some little part of the answer, and I think it's a whole system that's set up,
doesn't it?
That's how that's the only way you can make the rich people get richer is by having this system, and it just happens to be that this social system then puts the black man at the bottom, but then there's also rankings. There's There's a whole
caste system.
There's a whole caste system, and I'll say that a part of the answer for that low income white person is also the same, to some degree, is the same answer to the social system for the black person. It is that a lot of people that make money, many of them, have they've had talents and they've had to work for it. I get that. but they also had a opportunity that was set before them, and that opportunity is not equally passed out.
That's right.
So could we say, and I understand what you're saying, so could we say that just because we're saying there is white privilege does not mean that no white person has to struggle and work?
Oh, no.
You're talking about there's just an infrastructure set
Absolutely.
up where certain caste are above others.
Absolutely.
And that's all. And you still might have to hustle, you still have to do whatever. There are poor white people, there are white people that are brutalized by police, there certainly are white people in prison.
That's right.
But it does not eliminate the system, which is a white supremacist structure.
That's
It
right.
just doesn't guarantee every white person, oh, I'm just going to use my white privilege. They almost mock. Some of them almost mock when you say white privilege. They say, oh, sure, I'll just use my white privilege. I worked hard for everything I have. And it doesn't mean you don't have to work.
No.
It almost tags. It's almost. I actually had somebody ask me this the other day
About white privilege?
about white privilege and explain it. It almost tags. It tags someone negatively because of the color of their skin, and there is a. Depending on what's going on, if there's trouble going on, who are you going to look to first? If you walked into a room, where are you going to look? Where'd the trouble come from? If 50% of these types of men are in prison, and we've got these types of men in the room, well, here's what we're going to look at first. So it's almost like guilty, and then got to be proven innocent.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it sets you. They had and I don't know if it's true or not. There's a lot of stuff going around. You got. People make up things and put them out on the web. I realize that.
Yes, sir.
And I might be saying something. I might pick up something that, oh, that was fake. Oh, okay, it was fake. All right. But it still doesn't change what we're talking about.
No.
Right. And people try to make it. So the bird watcher in Central Park, gentleman, African-American man was watching birds. I guess there was a woman who came along with her dog. And I don't know, she was interfering with the bird watching, and he asked her. He said, "Ma'am, could you move I'm trying to watch these birds." And she calls on the phone and says, "There's this man out here that is anyway, it's a black man and
Aggressive.
he's aggressive and all this." Okay, so now that man is in quite a peculiar situation. He has to determine whether I'm going to stay here and say, that woman ain't telling the truth. Or am I going to say, you know what, I had to watch the birds another day.
I might leave.
I think I'm going to be another day on it. I mean,
knowing where I am,
but
where I am, I might gently ease.
Let me go ahead and ease out, because I can come back and fight another day. But
and I would say, wouldn't you say that a woman would know that?
She would know that.
Oh, of course.
That's why I'm calling. I'm calling to play. Okay, hey, that's all I need to know, because I can't explain it.
You win. I'm walking away.
I'm totally right, but I can't explain that I'm right.
Yeah.
And it's the same way. I can't explain white privilege to me. Now that I can't fully explain to you, but come sit and watch some birds with me, and we'll work it out that way.
And that's what I was trying to say when I said there are some things that's hard to prove, though you fully believe it. But then there's some things that are easy to prove. Some things present day white privilege prove that. I believe it, and I think you can prove it if you have an open mind. But we can definitely prove that our society is built upon originally. When did it get fixed? At the signing, Abraham Lincoln signing. Was it fixed?
Yeah. If it's in the Constitution, then you would have to get a whole new Constitution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Constituted incorrectly.
You would have to be, if the whole thing is, if the whole Constitution is built around that, well, it's built, all men are created equal and they're endowed by their Creator with certain alien
How you get
rights.
better than that?
Right, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. If I'm one of them men.
If I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's okay if I'm one of those men.
But if I'm only 3/5 of one of them men,
then I ain't in that.
Right.
All men are
It's
created
not- it's
equal.
not talking about me.
He's not talking about this as a man. And so if I'm trying, even if I start inserting things into this Constitution, if I haven't changed if a Constitution of a person is sick, if I don't change the Constitution, it doesn't matter what I
You
pour
can comb his hair, or you
do whatever you want to
put
do.
lotion on him, or he's still
brother.
sick.
And put some more oil on him, brother, from street vendors, brother, some good old oil. And brother, it's still gonna be sick.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's what, and the actual cost of changing the Constitution, the writers of the Constitution and the backers of the Constitution are not willing to do.
And that's what he's saying.
They can't
happen.
do it, and they must remain within this structure. Yep.
So, brother, wouldn't it also, just very quickly, wouldn't it also be true that some things are difficult to prove in the manner that they're attempted to be proven?
That's
Okay.
right.
So they have discredited the prophet. But prophecy is just as legitimate as any fact that you could give.
That's right.
It's actually been
More so.
It is. The scripture says
There are
it's
laws.
a more
It's
sure
more.
word of prophecy.
That's right.
It's actually more sure than what you actually see. But the system has been successful in discrediting prophecy in the minds of people. Prophecy is not discredited, but in the minds of people. And there are facts that are prophetically grasped.
Right.
And prophetically understood from a human. It's actually like some facts are given in such a way as to dehumanize someone, to make you not think in terms of this is a person with a living, moving spirit. There's a spiritual operation happening here. Right. It's not just A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. And some facts are given discounting that.
So whatever facts we have has to be viewed in the light of prophecy.
That's right.
Amen.
Otherwise, if you remove those facts from prophecy, those facts can be just as damning to a person as lies.
That's good.
It has to be viewed and it has to be understood within prophecy, and that cannot be done by a president. I mean, if he was also a prophet. But at this point, political figures is not going to get it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the people are lost because they don't have a shepherd. And if George Floyd is really, if his life or his death or his murder or his execution would receive a full retribution, that would be when people would be moved to leave the system as we know it today, turn to the prophets of God and say, what shall we do?
Yes, sir. That's good.
Amen.
And that would make, well, nothing could justify his death, but that would sure, something good would have come from it. If that could prompt people to move and say, this whole thing is broken, and do like they used to do in the Bible days, find the prophet, find the prophet, see what he says. And that's where it is. And that's what we have to have.
That's right.
Without it, it's lost.
Amen.
Everybody. Lost in this life and lost in the life to come. And that's hard to grasp. But
Amen.
thank you very much for watching. We would be interested in hearing from you. You can contact us through our church's website. That is www.thechurchofgod.com. And we would be happy to hear from you. And we trust that we are a blessing. I will say to you, as the viewer, that though I realize that it's a bold statement, but we have the answers.
Amen.
Not because we are God, but because we are connected with God.
Yes.
And God has placed us here at a time such as this, and we have the answers. And we are living, you know, the song says, the noise of strife.
Yes, far away from the noise of
Far
strife.
away.
Yes, yes.
We can testify of that.
Yes,
All
yes.
this that's happening. Now, we feel connected because these are our human brothers.
Absolutely.
We feel, in that sense, we feel connected.
Absolutely.
But personally, it's something that's far
Amen.
away.
Yes.
May God bless you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.